Hi everybody, this is Mr. Tejan, and I wanted to share a little bit about Science Olympiad with students, so I thought I'd make a video instead of coming to classrooms like I did last year and do it a little bit more efficiently. Science Olympiad is a club team activity that we did at LHS for the first time last year. Here's some other teams that I've coached in the past. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how it works and see if there are students who are interested. Typically, I've presented to students in science elective classes in the past because those students are usually in the best position to make a contribution to the team. It is a competitive academic event. Here's some pictures of some of the events. I'll explain a little bit more about each of the events and how the program works. So a Science Olympiad team consists of 15 students, and there can only be 7 seniors on a team. There are 23 events. We sometimes run a few less than that in New Hampshire, sometimes 21. Most students are in 2 or 3 events, and most events are 2 people. So for instance, at the bottom of the screen here, you can see 2 girls working on an event called Magnetic Levitating Vehicle, and here is 2 students working on an event which happens to be called Boom a Lever, in which you engineer a structure to support a weight. Typically, there are invitational tournaments, regional tournaments, and state tournaments. New Hampshire is a small state, and so we just have a state tournament right now. It is actually on March 27th this year at St. Anselm College. We competed there last year on March 12th, and that was the first time, like I said, that LHS had a team. This year we're planning on hosting an invitational tournament here at LHS on the second Saturday in February. It's sort of like a academic track meet, STEAM track meet it says there, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Mathematics. And we compete with other students from other teams, and you can win individual medals that way. You might see a trophy plaque in the hallway that shows some of the medals individuals won last year, but we also can try to place as a team. First place teams proceed to nationals. So we want to be able to do science well, be competitive, and have a good time doing it. Students usually want to know what kind of a time commitment is involved, and I've tried to structure the program so that it doesn't prohibit you from being involved in a variety of other activities. We will have weekly business meetings on Mondays during reassessment, and if you can't make the business meeting, I just ask that you check in with me beforehand so that I can get the information out to everybody. Those are just business meetings, so the practice really needs to take place on your own time. I can keep my classroom open during lunch, so that if you want to meet up with your partner and work on your event during lunch, you can certainly do that. But how much time you spend practicing or building or working on your event can vary from event to event. I'd say trying to set aside an hour or 2 a week is probably a reasonable amount of time in order to begin to be competitive at the tournament. The more time you can put into your events, the higher the chance there is that you're going to win gold, silver, or bronze at a tournament. There is a chance to earn E.L.O credit through Science Olympiad. If you're interested in that, let me know. The calendar for the year looks like this. In September, we register either 1 team or 2, depending on turnout, and we finalize the roster and who's doing what events. And then we start working independently and with our partners to build the construction pieces and study for the lab events and study events. In February, there's a Saturday where we're hosting an invitational tournament, and in March is the state tournament. You have to be able to set aside those dates on your calendar. So if you can't commit to those 2 Saturdays, then probably shouldn't put your name in the hat for Science Olympiad. Here's what a tournament looks like. Typically you'll have a couple of events. They might be scheduled at 9 and noon. They might be scheduled at 11, 12, and 1. But all the events are about 50 minutes apiece, and we're done by 2, at which point in time judges tally up the scores, and we have an award ceremony, and everybody goes home. There are 3 categories of event. I think I mentioned before: study events, which are pencil and paper tests essentially; build events, in which you build a device in advance to accomplish a particular goal and demonstrate it at the tournament, and lab events where you demonstrate some lab skill. The study events for 2017 are listed here, and I can give more details about these events. If you come to the informational meeting, I can answer any questions you have about them. But there is a list of study events. Here's the build events, which range from robotics to vehicle construction to engineering things like towers and wind turbines. And then finally the lab events. You can see a list of things here, and a lot of these events need some explaining. There's some websites that are listed on the application paper, and you can find pretty quickly by just doing a Google search for Science Olympiad. You can learn more about the events that way. However, I'd hope that we see lots of people showing up on Monday. If you're interested, come by during reassessment on September 12th. That's where we're going to have our first informational meeting. That's the first Monday we actually have classes. It's the Monday after Labor Day. You can get an application from your classroom teacher. I think I've given those to everybody as well. And you can bring those completed applications to the informational meeting, or you can just show up and talk to me about it before then. And throughout the next few weeks, we'll try to see how many people we get who are interested and start assigning people to events and register some teams. Drop by anytime and let me know if there's questions I can answer. And thank you for bearing with the amateurish quality of this video and setting aside a little time for this. Thanks.